So 44 years ago, I came to this area in Wales, and round the kitchen table, they were talking about the Silent Spring, which was a book talking about how the chemicals in farming was killing off the birds, and it was something that they really worried about, and they started organic movements and things like that. And in those days, if we had found out that organic had its own section in every single supermarket, we would have been completely amazed. And then as I grew up, I was in Newbury up trees protesting about a road programme that they did eventually stop. And then when Extinction Rebellion started, it was something that they were not being violent about it, so there was no abuse of police, which I'd found really difficult in the past, and so that motivated me, that it was calm. They had ways of dealing with what we called agitators, so what we thought people coming to cause problem. They had policies to get everyone would put their hands up and go quiet and sit down, so that would stop anything like that happening. So that's what made me go to the second thing that happened, and I went with a trunk of plates and a couple of big pans, like pans I could sit in, sort of big pans, not quite, and joined other people with big pans. So we did I ended up helping a kitchen to happen in Marble Arch, on the middle of a 6-lane highway in Marble Arch, and the traffic lights were still going through the night, like this sort of bizarre, very slow strobe, and tarmac's really comfortable to camp on. And then all these kitchens that were being closed down around the rest of London were coming to the kitchen that I was looking after, so it sort of grew and grew, and nobody knew they were going to be working there that day, and I just invited people to wash up and invited people to do this, and we fed loads. And so after that, I ended up doing a kitchen more officially, like going to meetings beforehand. And we started off feeding a few hundred each protest, and then it was 700 at the G7 and COP. And then the last one, which we did outside of Parliament, we fed 2,000 people a day. So that was another, there's a lot of things you look back and you think, wow, that grew. The government declared a climate emergency. It's talked about, in all departments, that we've got green issues that need dealing with, and that's a thing to aim for. I mean, from a child around the kitchen table, it's now around every board table of every big thing. And okay, a lot of it's whitewash, but the very fact that they think people want them to look green is an enormous difference. And then you look at the job in hand and you look forward and you think, oh my God, the trajectory that we're on is just so disastrous. It's happening now. We've got refugees, and the places that they're coming from have all sorts of problems, but they also have climate problems. It's really happening. Even here, the farmers will noticeably say that it's wetter. The weather is much more difficult to farm with, drier. It's extreme weather. So what happens is you put the heat into the world, and the more extreme weathers happen, which makes everything much more difficult. And so I don't find it very useful to look forward at that. I know it's a problem, and I'm up for doing anything I can. And I think, well, actually, I'll look forward. What would it look like if we succeeded? We're putting all this effort in. What would it look like? And for me, my personal fantasy is all these great ideas that I see happening around. Like, we've got lots of public vegetable growing gardens happening. My mum's involved with that. She's made, I don't know, I've lost count of how many she's caused to happen. Like allotments, but a little bit more communal. And all sorts of different things like that. And I would love to take a show on the road with circus to make it feel, fun and attractive, with a big market so that each individual that are doing future-friendly things can showcase what they're doing, and we can take good ideas from different areas and tell other areas about what some areas are doing. And so for me, that's what Extinction Rebellion would look like if we won, is that we would be spreading the good news, and how me and my community, we would probably be considered quite dark green, and a lot of us do all sorts of quite extreme dark green things, and they're nice, they're enjoyable. It's something, each one, you start doing it and you think, oh yeah, actually that's better than not doing it. Anyway, so that's me.
That's great, thanks very much. Can I just ask you a few questions?
Yeah.
How do you see yourself, or what you're trying to do, how can it fit in with the current political system, or how would it have to change? Have you got ideas about that?
Well, some people thought that a citizens' assembly would be a good idea, because the politicians are not in a position to be able to make wise decisions because they're too pushed and shoved. So the citizens' assembly would be based on a jury-like thing, where it would be ordinary people, and it's been done in other countries. Ireland, I know the story of best, where they did it with abortion, and it ended up with the population were on board with the decision at the end because it was televised. And so the process was, it's about 100 people are invited from different demographics, so you get a range of people, and they are educated about it, and then they go into small groups to talk, and they've got people there to help each voice be heard, so that quieter people are enabled. And then they come back together and bring each of their conclusions from the small groups and ideas, and they're voted about in the big group. And that, so what we would really like is that to be a binding thing, because it has happened, and they came up with some great ideas for green and things, like limiting flight, sort of more rationing flight really, and things like that. So we did have a citizens' assembly, but the decisions weren't binding.